Hey guys, welcome to day 246 of the Bilinear Plan. Today, we will be reading Nehemiah 10 through 13 and Revelation 8. If you need to read more about this plan, visit the High Quality Gospel website with the link in the description of the episode and the podcast. Please leave a like and follow the podcast to stay up to date with new episodes. Now, let's begin with reading Nehemiah 10. Those whose seals were on the document were the governor Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah, and Zedekiah, Seraiah, Azariah, Jeremiah, Pashur, Amariah, Malchijah, Hattush, Shebaniah, Maluk, Harim, Merimoth, Obadiah, Daniel, Ginnethon, Baruch, Meshullam, Abijah, Mijamin, Maziah, Bilgai, and Shemaiah. These were the priests. The Levites were Jeshua, son of Azaniah, Benui, son of the sons of Henadad, Kadmiel, and their brothers, Shebaniah, Hodiah, Kelida, Peliah, Hanan, Micah, Rehob, Hashabiah, Zechur, Sherebiah, Shebaniah, Hodiah, Beninu. The heads of the people were Parosh, Pahath Moab, Elam, Zatu, Bani, Buni, Asgad, Bebai, Adonijah, Bigvai, Adon, Ater, Hezekiah, Azur, Hodiah, Hashum, Bezai, Harif, Anathoth, Nebai, Magpiash, Meshullam, Hezir, Meshebezel, Zadok, Jaddua, Pelatiah, Hanan, Ananiah, Hoshea, Hananiah, Hashub, Halosheth, Pilha, Shobek, Rehum, Hashabnah, Masaiah, Ahijah, Hanan, Anan, Maluk, Harim, Benah. The rest of the people, the priests, Levites, gatekeepers, singers, and temple servants, along with their wives, sons, and daughters, everyone who is able to understand and who has separated themselves from the surrounding peoples to obey the law of God, join with their noble brothers and commit themselves with a sworn oath to follow the law of God given through God's servant Moses, and to obey carefully all the commands, ordinances, and statutes of the Lord our God. We will not give our daughters in marriage to the surrounding peoples, and will not take their daughters as wives for our sons. When the surrounding peoples bring merchandise or any grain to sell on the Sabbath day, we will not buy from them on the Sabbath or a holy day. We will also leave the land uncultivated in the 7th year, and will cancel every debt. We will impose the following commands on ourselves: to give 1/8 of an ounce of silver yearly for the service of the house of our God, the bread displayed before the Lord, the daily grain offering, the regular burnt offering, the Sabbath and new moon offerings, the appointed festivals, the holy things, the sin offerings, to atone for Israel, and for the work of the house of our God. We have cast lots among the priests, Levites, and people for the donations of wood by our ancestral families at the appointed times each year. They are to bring the wood to our God's house to burn on the altar of the Lord our God, as it is written in the law. We will bring the first fruits of our land and of every fruit tree to the Lord's house year by year. We will also bring the firstborn of our sons and our livestock, as prescribed by the law, and will bring the firstborn of our herds and flocks to the house of our God, to the priests who serve in God's house. We will bring a loaf from our first batch of dough to the priest at the storerooms of the house of our God. We will also bring the first fruits of our grain offerings, of every fruit tree, and of the new wine and fresh oil. 1/10 of our land's produce belongs to the Levites, for the Levites are to collect the 1/10 offering in all our agricultural towns. A priest from Aaron's descendants is to accompany the Levites when they collect the 10th, and the Levites are to take 1/10 of this offering to the storerooms of the treasury in the house of our God. On the Israelites and the Levites are to bring the contributions of grain, new wine, and fresh oil to the storerooms where the articles of the sanctuary are kept, and where the priests who minister are, along with the gatekeepers and singers. We will not neglect the house of our God. Now the leaders of the people stayed in Jerusalem, and the rest of the people cast lots, for 1 out of 10 to come and live in Jerusalem and the holy city, while the other 9/10 remained in their towns. The people blessed all the men who volunteered to live in Jerusalem. These are the heads of the province who stayed in Jerusalem, but in the villages of Judah, each lived on his own property in their towns: the Israelites, priests, Levites, temple servants, and descendants of Solomon's servants, while some of the descendants of Judah and Benjamin settled in Jerusalem. Judah's descendants: Athiah, son of Uzziah, son of Zechariah, son of Amariah, son of Shephatiah, son of Mahalalel, of Perez's descendants, and Maaseiah, son of Baruch, son of Kol-Hoseh, son of Haziah, son of Adiah, son of Joiarib, son of Zechariah, a descendant of the Shilonite. The total number of Perez's descendants who settled in Jerusalem was 468 capable men. These were Benjamin's descendants: Shalu, son of Meshullam, son of Joed, son of Pedaiah, son of Koliah, son of Maaseiah, son of Ithiel, son of Jeshiah, and after him Gabai and Salai, 928. Joel, son of Zichri, was the officer over them, and Judah, son of Hasuniah, was second in command over the city. The priest: Jediah, son of Joiarib, Jachin, and Sariah, son of Hilkiah, son of Meshullam, son of Zadok, son of Miriathoth, son of Ahitub, the chief official of God's temple, and their relatives who did the work at the temple, 822. Adiah, son of Jeroham, son of Peliah, son of Amzi, son of Zechariah, son of Pashur, son of Malchijah, and his relatives, the heads of the families, 242. Amashiah, son of Azarel, son of Ahzai, son of Meshilemoth, son of Immer, and the relatives, capable men, 128. Zabdiel, son of Haggedolim, was their chief. The Levites: Shemaiah, son of Hashub, son of Azrikam, son of Hashabiah, son of Buni, the Shabbathai, and Jozabad, from the heads of the Levites, who supervised the work outside the house of God. Mattaniah, son of Micah, son of Zabdi, son of Asaph, the one who began the thanksgiving and prayer. Bakbukai, second among the relatives, and Abdah, son of Shemua, son of Galal, son of Jeduthun, all the Levites in the holy city, 284. The gatekeepers: Akub, Talmon, and their relatives, who guarded the city gates, 172. The rest of Israel, the priests and the Levites, were in all the villages of Judah, each on his own inherited property. The temple servants lived on Ophel, Zihah, and Gishpa, supervised the temple servants. The leader of the Levites in Jerusalem was Uzzi, son of Bani, son of Hashabiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micah, of the descendants of Asaph, who were singers for the service of the house of God. There was, in fact, a command of the king regarding them, and an ordinance regulating the singers' daily tasks. Methahiah, son of Meshabazel, of the descendants of Zariah, son of Judah, was the king's agent in every matter concerning the people. As for the farming settlements with their fields, some of Judah's descendants lived in Kiriath Arba, and Dibon and their surrounding villages, and Jekbzeel and its settlements, in Jeshua, Moladah, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shual, and Beersheba and its surrounding villages, in Ziklag and Mechanah, its surrounding villages, in En-Rimmon, Zorah, Jarmuth, and Zanoah, and Adullam with their descendants, in Lachish with its fields, and Ezekiah and its surrounding villages. So they settled from Beersheba to Hinnom Valley. Benjamin's descendants: from Geba, Michmash, Ijah, and Bethel and its surrounding villages, Anathoth, Nob, Ananiah, Hazor, Ramah, Gittaim, Hadid, Zeboim, Nebalat, Lod, and Ono, in Craftsman's Valley. Some of the Judean visions of Levites were in Benjamin. These were the priests and Levites who went up with Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and with Jeshua: Sariah, Jeremiah, Ezra, Amariah, Maluk, Hattush, Shechaniah, Rehum, Merimoth, Edo, Ginnethoi, Abijah, Mijamin, Mediah, Bilgah, Shemaiah, Joiarib, Jediah, Salu, Amok, Hilkiah, Jediah. These were the heads of the priests and their relatives in the days of Jeshua. The Levites: Jeshua, Binui, Kadmiel, Sherebiah, Judah, and Mattaniah. He and his relatives were in charge of the songs of praise. Bakbukiah, Uni, and their relatives stood opposite them in the services. Jeshua fathered Joachim, Jehoiakim fathered Eliashib, Eliashib fathered Joiada, Joiada fathered Jonathan, and Jonathan fathered Jaddua. In the days of Joachim, the heads of the priestly families were Moriah of Sariah, Hananiah of Jeremiah, Meshullam of Ezra, Jehohanan of Amariah, Jonathan of Maluki, Joseph of Shebaniah, Adnah of Harim, Helkai of Meriathoth, Zechariah of Edo, Meshullam of Ginnethon, Zikri of Abijah, Piltai of Moadiah of Minimin, Shemua of Bilgah, Jehonathan of Shemaiah, Mattanai of Joiarib, Uzzi of Jediah, Kelai of Salai, Eber of Amok, Hashabiah of Hilkiah, and Nathaniel of Jediah. In the days of Eliashib, Joiada, Jehohanan, and Jaddua, the heads of the families of the Levites and priests, were recorded. While Darius the Persian ruled, Levites' descendants, the family heads, were recorded in the book of the historical events during the days of Jehohanan, son of Eliashib. The heads of the Levites, Hashabiah, Sherebiah, and Jeshua, son of Kadmiel, along with their relatives opposite them, gave praise and thanks division by division, as David the man of God had prescribed. This included Mattaniah, Bakbukai, and Obadiah. Meshullam, Talmon, and Akub were gatekeepers who guarded the storerooms at the city gates. They served in the days of Jehoiakim, son of Jeshua, son of Jozadak, in the days of Nehemiah the governor, and Ezra the priest and scribe. At the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sent for the Levites wherever they lived and brought them to Jerusalem to celebrate the joyous dedication with thanksgiving and singing, accompanied by cymbals, harps, and lyres. The singers gathered from the region around Jerusalem, from the settlements of the Netophathites, from Beth Gilgal, and from the fields of Geba and Asmaveth, for they had built settlements for themselves around Jerusalem. After the priests and Levites had purified themselves, they purified the people, the city gates, and the wall. Then I brought the leaders of Judah up to the top of the wall, and I appointed 2 large processions and gave them thanks. One went to the right on the wall, towards the dung gate. Hoshea and half the leaders of Judah followed, along with Azariah, Ezra, Meshullam, Judah, Benjamin, Shemaiah, Jeremiah, and one of the priest's sons with trumpets, and Zechariah, son of Jonathan, son of Shemaiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micaiah, son of Zakur, son of Asaph, followed, as well as his relatives, Shemaiah, Azarel, Milalai, Gilalai, Mai, Nathaniel, Judah, and Hanani, with the musical instruments of David, the man of God. Ezra the scribe went in front of them. At the fountain gate, they climbed the steps of the city of David on the ascent of the wall and went above the house of David to the water gate on the east. The second Thanksgiving procession went to the left, and I followed it with half people along the top of the wall, past the tower of the ovens, to the broad wall, above the Ephraim gate, and by the old gate, the fish gate, the tower of Hananel, and the tower of Hundred, to the sheep gate. They stopped at the gate of the guard. The 2 Thanksgiving processions stood in the house of God. So did I and half of the officials accompanying me, as well as the priest, Eliakim, Messiah, Menamin, Micaiah, Elioenai, Zechariah, and Hananiah, with trumpets, and Maaseiah, Shemaiah, Eleazar, Uzi, Jehohanan, Malchijah, Elam, and Ezer. Then the singers sang, with Jezreah as the leader. On that day they offered great sacrifices and rejoiced because God had given them great joy. The women and the children also celebrated, and Jerusalem's rejoicing was heard far away. On that same day men were placed in charge of the rooms that housed the supplies, contributions, firstfruits, and tents. The legally required portions for the priests and Levites were gathered from the village fields, because Judah was grateful to the priests and Levites who were serving. They performed the service of their God and the service of purification, along with the singers and gatekeepers, as David and his son Solomon had prescribed. For long ago, in the days of David and Asaph, there were heads of the singers and songs of praise and thanksgiving to God. So in the days of Zerubbabel and Nehemiah, all Israel contributed the daily portions for the singers and gatekeepers. They also set aside daily portions for the Levites, and the Levites set aside daily portions for Aaron's descendants. At that time the book of Moses was read publicly to the people. The command was found written in it that no Ammonite or Moabite should ever enter the assembly of God, because they did not meet the Israelites with food and water. Instead, they hired Balaam against them to curse them. But our God turned the curse into a blessing. When they heard the law, they separated all of those mixed descent from Israel. Now before this, the priest Eliashib had been put in charge of the storerooms of the house of our God. He was a relative of Tobiah, and had prepared a large room for him, where they had previously stored the grain offerings, the frankincense, the articles, and the tents of grain, new wine, and fresh oil, prescribed for the Levites, singers, and gatekeepers, along with the contributions for the priests. While all this was happening, I was not in Jerusalem, but I had returned to King Artaxerxes of Babylon in the 32nd year of his reign. It was only later that I asked for the king for a leave of absence, so I could return to Jerusalem. Then I discovered the evil that Eliashib had done on behalf of Tobiah, by providing him a room in the courts of God's house. I was greatly displeased, and threw all of Tobiah's household's possessions out of the room. I ordered that the rooms be purified, and I had the articles of the house of God restored there, along with the grain offering and frankincense. I also found out, because the portions for the Levites had not been given. Each of the Levites and the singers performing the service had gone back to his own field. Therefore I rebuked the officials, asking, "Why has the house of God been neglected?" I gathered the Levites and singers together and stationed them at their ports. Then all Judah brought a tenth of the grain, new wine, and fresh oil into the storehouses. I appointed as treasurers over the storehouses the priest Shelemiah, the scribe Zadok, and Pedaiah of the Levites, with Hanan son of Zakur, son of Mattaniah, to assist them, because they were considered trustworthy. They were responsible for the distribution to their colleagues. Remember me for this, my God, and don't erase the deeds of faithful love I have done for the house of my God and for its services. At that time I saw the people in Judah treading wine presses on the Sabbath. They were also bringing in stores of grain and loading them on donkeys, along with wine, grapes, and figs. All kinds of goods were being brought to Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. So I warned them against selling food on that day. The Tyrians living there were importing fish and all kinds of merchandise and selling them on the Sabbath to the people of Judah in Jerusalem. I rebuked the nobles of Judah and said to them, "What is this evil you are doing, profaning the Sabbath day? Didn't your ancestors do the same, so that our God brought all this disaster on us and this city? And now you're rekindling his anger against Israel by profaning the Sabbath?" When shadows began to fall on the city gates of Jerusalem just before the Sabbath, I gave orders that the city gates be closed and not opened until after the Sabbath. I posted some of my men at the gates so that no goods could enter during the Sabbath day. Once or twice the merchants and those who sell all kinds of goods camped outside Jerusalem. But I warned them, "Why are you camping in front of the wall? If you do it again, I'll use force against you." After that they did not come again on the Sabbath. Then I instructed the Levites to purify themselves and guard the city gates in order to keep the Sabbath day holy. Remember me for this also, my God, and look on me with compassion, according to the abundance of your faithful love. In those days I also said Jews who had married women from Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. Half their children spoke of the language of Ashdod, or the language of one of the other peoples, but could not speak Hebrew. And I rebuked them, cursed them, beat some of their men, and pulled out their hair. I forced them to take an oath before God, and said, "You must not give your daughters in marriage to their sons, or take their daughters as wives for your sons or yourselves." Didn't King Solomon of Israel sin in matters like this? There was not a king like him among many nations. He was loved by his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Yet foreign women drew him into sin. Why then should we hear about you doing all this terrible evil and acting unfaithfully against our God by marrying foreign women? Even one of the sons of Jehoiada, son of the high priest Eliashib, had become a son-in-law to Sanballat the Horonite. So I drove him away from me. Remember them, my God, for defiling the priesthood, as well as the covenant for the priesthood and the Levites. So I purified them from every foreign and assigned specific duties to each of the priests and Levites. I also arranged for the donation of the wood at the appointed times and for the first fruits. Remember me, my God, with favor. Now we read Revelation 8. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand in the presence of God. 7 trumpets were given to them. Another angel, with a golden incense burner, came and stood at the altar. He was given a large amount of incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar in front of the throne. The smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints went up in the presence of God from the angel's hand. The angel took the incense burner, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it to the earth. There were pearls of great thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. And then 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to blow them. The first angel blew his trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were hurled to the earth. So a third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain, ablaze with fire, was hurled into the sea. So a third of the sea became blood, a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from heaven. It fell on a third of the rivers and springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood, and a third of the waters became wormwood. So many of the people died from the waters because they had been made bitter. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day was without light, and also a third of the night. I looked and heard an eagle flying high overhead, crying out in a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to those who live on the earth, because of the remaining trumpet blasts that the 3 angels are about to sound." On day 245, we read of Nehemiah and the revival in Jerusalem, and in Revelation, we read of the multitude worshiping God. Today we finish Nehemiah. Nehemiah was the governor of Jerusalem, at the command of the king of Persia. He was extremely distraught over the state of Jerusalem was in, and it was unfit for the returning Jews to live in. So he prayed and asked God to help he and the people. God answered, and the king gave Nehemiah authority to go and rebuild the walls. Nehemiah led the construction that broke records. The people came together with unity, and they performed the will of God. Adversaries fought to try and disrupt the construction. However, they were foiled because of God. Because of this, a revival broke out in Jerusalem. The people heard the law spoken for the first time in a very long time, and they followed in the ways of God. People confessed their sin and decided to turn away from their past transgressions from the exile. They understood that they have ignored God and do not desire to follow in the ways of their ancestors. This is the attitude that we must have, an attitude of repentance and unity. The reason the people repaired the city, rebuilt the walls, their homes, and the temple is because of their unified understanding of God and who He is. Without these things, none of this would have happened. Nehemiah led this unity, and the people responded the correct way. With all of these things, when adversity comes, we can thrive through it, just like Jerusalem. They had enemies, they had setbacks within their own walls, but they came out of it, all because they were unified and followed God every step of the way. It was their faithfulness to God that allowed them to do such great things. In Revelation, silence comes before the seventh seal, the final stage of judgment. Thunder, earthquakes, and other natural disasters then occur, right before the judgment. Plague takes the vegetation, then the seas and the creatures within, then the fresh water and all things involved in it, then the sky. All of these will occur, disrupting our way of living. God's might will be shown, which glorifies Him, for only He is able to disrupt the things of this world in this amount. This will be an event unlike any have seen. But God not only shows His might, but also His mercy. This judgment will not take all people, only some. This is when people begin to fear revelation. They see it as nothing but destruction. But remember, God spares those who believe in Him, both before and during the tribulation. This is the time that Christ prophesied, His return and judgment on sin and the earth. Is this not good? The destruction of sin? Remember, this is a hopeful message, for if the future scares you, then we must work now to repent and change our lives so that we can worship God in the new kingdom, while sin is completely destroyed. Thank you for joining in the reading and understanding of these chapters, and let us all be vigilant in continuing this reading. Please share, like, follow, or whatever you can do to help us reach more people with the Bible reading. Please also check out the High Quality Gospel website for more information and a couple of store items. Thank you, and keep learning.